What's the big deal about owning a boat? You know, for years I've always felt like I've treated everybody's boat like my own, and a lot of people have asked me why you haven't owned one. Owning a boat means you got to deal with people. You got to deal with these deckhands. Well, look at all that excitement. The last couple of years I've been on the back burner about even buying a boat, and if this boat wasn't in the shape that it is, I would have never done it. The summer bay isn't the biggest packer of crab or pots, but it's fuel efficient. So to operate it's not over the top expensive, and right now we have smaller quotas. You know, like Keith can pack a lot of pots and a lot of crab, but there's not a lot of crab to catch right now. So his cost per day of fuel is probably double, if not triple of mine. So here we are, we're in the wheelhouse of the summer bay, quite a bit different, a lot nicer than the Cape Caution. We have a great radar. It's a 48-mile radar, and we have a couple depth finders that shows us where the bottom is, if it's a hard bottom, a soft bottom. Crab do not have an air bladder, so you cannot see them on any kind of sounder, so it's not like you're chasing fish and you go, hey, there's some fish on the bottom. We don't get to do that with crab. We have a sat compass. You know, it used to be you had these big gyro compasses that cost a fortune, and they took up a huge space and took forever to warm up. This is what it's come down to. But every boat essentially has all the same systems, and the difference is the complexity and the quality of the system. As far as anything, you know, dramatically different, the boat has a KVH system, and that is internet, telephone, which could be a nightmare on here. When this system first came out, there were crew members that lost their whole season to being on the internet. They'd leave their phone on, and it would be like in some roaming mode or something, and it would just, it's expensive. This is my stateroom. We came in and did a bunch of improvements in here because, you know what? It's kind of not a lot of fun to be here sometimes, so you might as well make the best of it. I put a small fridge in the bathroom there. The floor was really rough. The toilet had been leaking. The counter had some, you know, the typical yellow Formica that looks like it's in an insane asylum. I think I'll probably get a little grief about the sink, that little bit of a pedestal sink there, but I think it was $10 cheaper than the stainless. So I threw this TV up. They're pretty much give them away anymore. The thing that I was watching on the way up was self-defense video. I probably don't need that in my repertoire if you know anything about my past. This is the galley. A lot of stuff happens in the galley. This is where all the downtime is with the guys. This is where the guys have their meals around the table. The stove was okay, but considering we were down south, I put in a double oven stove. We're feeding, with the camera guys, we're feeding 8 and sometimes 9 people. We got a great coffee pot that's like a restaurant style. Put in a new fridge just because when you're up north, the refrigerators cost about twice what they do down south. Caught a little grief about the sink, put in kind of a big stainless farm sink. I'll talk a little bit about the engine room of the boat. It was owned by a company that was all about maintenance. The main engines are forward. You'll see 2 generators. There's refrigeration, there's hydraulics, pumps for the fresh water, the steering, the pumps for the salt water for the toilets. As far as the boat that was built in the 80s, the engine room's pretty shiny. This sorting table, it slides down in front of the launcher. You lift the pot up, you dump it in here inside this bin. And instead of, typically guys are all the time, every pot, especially with the peeler, they're pushing, they're shoving all this crab, it just wears them out. This is like an old guy table. You hit the handle, it moves the crab down the line. It's a very strenuous job, and you want to make it as easy for them as you can because you're asking them to do things that day after day, hour after hour, it wears most guys out. The easier you can make it, the harder you can push them.